This is the Bullbat 500 watt power station. Let's take a look. Editing Ive here. You gotta stay tuned to the end of the video for a big surprise. Let's get back into it. This was sent to me by the company for free, and I just got it today. A little accessory box. That's pretty much it. It did have a booklet in it. The booklet was especially good. It's the first booklet I've read. I don't read a whole lot of booklets to keep it a buck. It's the first booklet that I read that told me the diameter of the input charging port, and it's 5525. Not excited about that. 8mm would have been great, but you know. So this is the 500 watt hour Bullbat portable power station. It is a lithium ion battery, which means it's much lighter than, I mean, it has a little heft to it. It's much lighter than lithium iron phosphate. I'm beginning to have an appreciation for lithium ion batteries because they're lighter, they provide a little more power for the weight, and that's cool because, you know, I move and shake around the house, and sometimes it's easier to grab these type of power stations than my heavier ones, which is sad because the EcoFlow is heavy. It doesn't move though. All right, you have two USB, what looks like quick charge ports because they're blue. I'm just gonna assume that they are. Two power delivery ports. I have not seen, I think these are 60 watts, but I don't know if they are 60 watts each or 60 watts total. I saw the highest voltage on it is 20 volts times 3 amps. So amps times volts is watts. This is the 5525 charging port. This is a 5521 charging port. Interesting thing, the EcoFlow River gave me a 5521 to 5525 cable, which is really cool. So I could charge this from another power station with that cable, just using that power station's 5521 port, and then it'll convert it to 5525. Light is on the left hand side, 12 volt is on this side. Back just shows you nothing. Has some rubber feet on the bottom with a little bit of space in between. It's an interesting looking little device. I like that it has at least one ground option. This port is not grounded. If you can see in the back, you can see that it's empty. I can. I don't know why this has a 50 hertz and 60 hertz button on the device. That seems like a weird thing to have, and I don't know if that could cause an issue going forward if you inadvertently press these. I'm not sure what this is about. Let's see what kind of state it came charged at. 78%. Interesting screen. Okay, so 50 hertz button turns the AC on, 60 hertz turns the AC on. That's interesting. It also shows you hours. It's very small. This is I mean, the screen shows you a lot of information. My understanding is that it shows you input, output in watts on the DC, and output in watts on the AC. Let's see what's in the box. In their documentation, oh, they got some stuff, a quick start guide on here. That's pretty cool. Another place that tells you is 5525. That's cool, man. A lot of times you don't know what kind of port the thing is, but they tell you. They're very clear about that. MC4 cable, you know, you win me over with that. It's really short though. Jeez. Yeah, this is really short. I'm not a fan of that. In their documentation, they talk about how this is not in here. It's sold separately, but it is in here. And let's see what the power brick is rated at, because that's an interesting thing about this. It can charge in, well, let's just look, 115 watts. Yes, that was an interesting thing about this company. They provide you with a 115 watt charger, but it can take in up to 160 watts. And it was like, yeah, if you want to do that, you got to buy your own power supply, which I thought is interesting. I'm glad they put it out there, but they provided you with one that charges at 110 watts. A lot of devices charge at 100 watts in this particular price point. This thing is listed at this time as $399. I'm not crazy about that price, especially when you have some other devices that sell right around that price point, and they even have LiFePo in them. So I do these videos mainly because prices fluctuate. So even at $399, this may not necessarily be worth it to you unless you value lighter weight over longevity of LiFePo, but this may go on a sale for like $100 cheaper, $50 cheaper, and then there will be a much more interesting device to check out. The inverter is 500 watts. The capacity is about 515 watt hours, so it's matched up nicely there. I am going to charge this up right here from my wall outlet, but one thing that's cool about these cables, y'all, is these cables are pretty much interchangeable. Like if you want a shorter cable or a longer cable, you can pretty much swap these out with any device. The power brick is what's doing the heavy lifting of changing AC to DC. That's what these do. They change AC to DC. All right, let's plug it in and see what kind of power it pulls in, and if the screen shows us the kind of power it's pulling in. It came in at about 78%, and it's using about 112 watts. So it shows input right there and shows output. The implications of this device for me is that I have a Rockpal's 300 watts, like 288 watt hour capacity, a 300 watt inverter. It charges at 80 watts. All my other smaller power stations max out at 60 watts. So when I heard about this one, they reached out to me and they talked about, not they, but the site talked about how it can charge up to 160 watts. I was immediately intrigued because then it can replace my Rockpal's. I hate the idea of having a power station hooked up to a 100 watt panel and wasting that 20 to 25 watts. If you saw my previous video, I mentioned that about the AC30. That's why that one's compelling. That one's also LiPo. My first impression of this is pretty good. I was impressed with it on paper. I'm gonna start a new series called Let's Test, where I kind of go through and show this stuff in a little more detail. It's not gonna be like a hobo tech review. I don't have all that equipment or patience, I think. But it's just some questions that I would like answered about a device that is very hard to find from just watching your run-of-the-mill review video, or information you have to dig through a review, a longer, more thorough review, just to get the basics, like how fast does it charge from the wall outlet, how fast does it charge from there, can it be charged from USB-C input, you know, stuff like that. So the thing died on me. I went through the first cycle of charging and discharging. I was using it to power something. It was at about 13%, and then it died and I couldn't get it to charge back up. Good thing is the company's sending me out another one, and you know, I'm gonna test that one. All right, now for real, it's I holla.